Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are talking 3 things that can throw off our clock. And we're not talking wrist clock, phone clock, or even cuckoo clock, which is what essentially production team is for me each and every day. We're talking the most important clock that we all have. The clock that regulates our day in and day out feel, mood, cellular, and metabolic function. This is our body clock, otherwise known as our circadian clock. Yep, we've had the only clock we've ever needed inside us the whole time. So in the next 14 minutes and 83 seconds, we'll walk through how our body clocks work, why it's advantageous to keep this clock in tune, and how meal timing, stress, and artificial light at the wrong time can discombobulate our internal clock and set us up for cellular and metabolic chaos within. And if I'm keeping track correctly, cellular and metabolic chaos from within, not good for biological business in the short term and for overall longevity. So first, your internal clock, our natural rhythms. If you haven't already noticed, we tend to follow a little bit of a daily cycle. At a high level, we wake up, we do things, then we go to bed and repeat until, well, you get it. This natural innate cycle is known as our circadian rhythms. And although it's unique, it's not really unique to us. All living organisms have shown to have a rhythm that they follow. To all forms of plants, primates, humans, fish, and even insects. And in most cases, for most forms of life, these rhythms are closely aligned to that big flaming supernova in the sky. How, you ask? Light and darkness cues are picked up by the eyes and interpreted by the brain, triggering a downstream flurry of biological signaling to inform the rest of the body what to do. We're talking things such as gene regulation, hormone secretion, autonomic functions, and much, much more. And when we bring this back and think of it in terms of human evolution, it's safe to say that we probably perform most of our important and relevant tasks, you know, the ones that were kind of key for survival, when we could see, aka during the day. And when dusk hit, we would hopefully be winding down with the tribe by the fire after a successful day of hunting or foraging. Or if you were a rebelling teen, watching the clouds dance in the sky, which I would equate to the modern day Netflix and chill. But this fire social would most likely only last an hour or so after nightfall, and our great ancestors would retire to slumber with somewhere between an 8 to 10 hour sleep opportunity. And just as dawn would begin to dawn, these alarm clock lacking Neanderthals, no offense, woke automagically, ready to go and get after it again. Bringing it all back to present day, modern research has begun to shed light on the fact that all living organisms have up to a few dozen specific circadian clock genes that regulate how the body operates over a 24-hour period. And these clock genes have not only been shown to be regulated by environmental factors, but lifestyle factors as well, including light, darkness, movement, sleep, and food. And the data has shown that when it comes to optimizing biological function, we humans are at our very best when we live in sweet synchrony with these deep evolutionary rhythms, which you'll see in the next few minutes or so, we're not doing a very good job of. Now, to make things just a little more interesting, we happen to have more than one internal clock. Yeah. And that's probably why, you're always late, production team, but somehow think you're on time. It was first thought that we had one master clock that instructed all of our other biological systems and set the tone for our daily function. This was found to be somewhat true. There's a small cluster of neurons in the brain's hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nuclei, or SCN. This region is responsible for receiving signals of light and darkness from special photoreceptors in our retina. And upon receiving this cue from the environment, this master clock sends a signal to the rest of the body systems to ramp up daytime or nighttime activity. But just like anything else in this world, it's just a, little bit more complicated. as it's been discovered that although there is a master clock trying to keep the entire body in tune, each of our organs, especially our digestive organs, have several non-light cues that get them ticking to their own talk. Did someone say TikTok? Oh no, we should be friends on TikTok. Just saying. So with that little body clock primer, let's see why meal timing may be a tad more important than you previously suspected. Meal timing. We have talked about meal timing, intermittent fasting, time-restricted feeding a lot on this channel. If you're interested in deep dives in any of this we are about to discuss, I will put all relevant videos below. You can also check out the Fasting 101 playlist that has 50 plus videos of research reviews, my N of 1 experimentation, and just different fasting techniques, all down below. But this is how and why it pertains to circadian rhythms. As we just discussed before, research suggests that energy-containing foods and beverages have the power to turn on the respective clocks of the organ systems responsible for digestion, including organs such as the liver, stomach, intestines, and pancreas. In layman's terms, these foods and drinks stimulate a digestive response, ad hoc, whenever they're consumed, no matter what time of the day. But what you may not have known is that we humans are better optimized to consume, process, and metabolize this energy at certain times of the day. Notice how I said day rather than night. And the problem seemed to have arisen around the normalization of a 24/7 eat whenever you want societal habit. This non-stop eating in combination with an inconsistent feeding schedule, typically ranging 14 to 15 hours a day, have disaligned our internal clocks, driving dysfunction and impairing our body to metabolize and store energy properly. Simply overworking systems like the liver's energy regulating functions and the pancreas's insulin production, all while late night eating impairs sleep quality due to the digestive demand, all resulting with a higher risk of disease onset and acceleration in the short and long term. Yeah, not cool. I know. And in most cases, when we're all over the place with our eating, timing, and nourishment, we're all over the place with our health. All of this has emerging data suggesting that consistent meal timing may be one of the most powerful things that we can do to get our health back in line and our clocks back in sync. This consistency entrains your body to know and prepare for food at a certain time each and every day. And in doing this, during its off time or fasting window, it can focus its attention to all of the other restorative, regenerating, detoxifying functions that continuous digestion gets in the way of. When we look at the research in both human and animal models has shown that consuming all of our energy in a restricted window each and every day without changing anything else like calorie intake can have profound impacts on our health. One randomized controlled study in humans simulating night shift work, which placed subjects through 3 days of phase inversion, meaning they were awake and eating when they should have been sleeping, showed significant impairment in insulin sensitivity and greater postprandial glucose rises after consuming the same meal that they did during the day. Damn. Another study that fed genetically identical mice a high-fat, high-sugar, very westernized diet, with one group of mice eating in a 12-hour feeding window and the other eating ad libitum, or whenever they want, showed that the time-restricted feeding group stayed metabolically healthy, while the ad libitum group became morbidly obese. All else the same. Same number of calories, same crappy food. The only thing different was their feeding windows, and there was a big metabolic difference. Crazy, I know. Similar results were found in a less controlled human study where participants ate all of their food in a 10 to 12 hour feeding window without any dietary limitations. At the conclusion of the study, seeing many improved biomarkers as well as the added benefit of that thing, people tend to care about, weight loss. No calorie tracking, diets, or crazy rules. Just eating in a strategic, consistent window that fits their lifestyle. This type of eating better aligns with the way we've evolved to eat and our innate biological circadian rhythms, being better equipped to digest and metabolize food during the day. And that's why I personally have been following an early time-restricted feeding protocol for the last couple of years. And you can see all about it right here. This also comes with the double whammy of better, more efficient sleep. And if you are new to the concept of time-restricted feeding, also often called intermittent fasting, know that the best strategy is always the one that you can consistently sustain. And don't stress if you don't know where to start. I'll link a few videos down in the show notes below on how to customize a time-restricted feeding protocol that best fits you and your life. Speaking of stress, disruptor number 2, stress, the chronic type. As you know from all of the other stress powwows that we've had, low-dose chronic stress is one of the biggest longevity liabilities that we have. And the threat landscape isn't what it used to be. It has shifted from highly physical for the majority of human evolution to highly psychological, really over the last few thousand years, and becoming much more severe during this tech boom of the last 50 years. All of this has shifted our stress response from something that has been acutely life-saving to something that's been chronically sickening. And here's one of the reasons why. Cortisol is a stress hormone produced by a complex network known as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis. This includes the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, which are in the brain, and the adrenal glands, which sit atop the kidneys. And wouldn't you know it, when working properly, cortisol secretion follows a circadian rhythm, dropping to its lowest point around midnight and slowly increasing production into the morning, where it plays a pretty important role in waking you up. And it typically peaks for the day about an hour or so after you wake up. A well-aligned human naturally upregulates this hormone an hour or so before their normal wake time, to prepare to knock the day on its tush. Cortisol then drops throughout the day, especially when light becomes absent at dusk. This is when those photoreceptors in the eye tell the brain to tell the pituitary gland to start secreting melatonin, or our sleep hormone, to help us go night-night. I mean, it's almost like we have a sweet symphony playing within each and every day. Should I get the saxophone? No? You destroyed it? We'll talk about that later. Now here's where things can start going wrong. This modern day digital, psychological, and emotional stressing landscape tends to get our 5-pound mushy membrane stressed to the max, quite often, with work, family, finances, news, and social media at the top of the triggers list. This upregulates our stress response to the point where it's chronically overactive. And this chronic disruption has shown to impair one of the most important health tools and circadian aligned functions that we have. Sleep, by the way. If you want more on sleep, the How to Sleep playlist, dope playlist. Check it out. But it doesn't just stop there. Chronically elevated cortisol has been linked to changes in metabolism, weight gain, inflammation, memory problems, anxiety, depression, headaches, and even cardiovascular disease. Many of these being directly and indirectly associated with circadian rhythm disalignment. Thus, a proactive stress management routine is good for biological business. And we shed a whole lot of light on that in this video here. But not artificial light at night, of course. Here's why. Light at the wrong time. As mentioned way back in the beginning of this video, light is one of the main regulators of our circadian rhythms. Mainly because that big flaming supernova in the sky has been an OG from day one. You see, when it comes down to it, light from the sun has been the oldest and most consistent regulator of our circadian rhythms. Like discussed, when natural light hits those photoreceptors in the retina, it signals the suprachiasmatic nuclei in the brain, which then alters gene expression throughout the body, optimizing it for daytime functioning. For example, when we get natural light, the secretion of serotonin, or a feel-good neurotransmitter, increases while melatonin, our sleep hormone, decreases. Explaining why getting some sun first thing in the morning can help kickstart your day. Cool, right? This signaling was pretty much uninterrupted throughout the majority of human evolution. That is, until some troublemaker named Edison showed up like 200 years ago with a bulb that magically emitted light. Must be related to you, production team. And with that, our lives and rhythms were changed forever, particularly with a lot more light at the wrong time, specifically at night. With the abundance and combination of artificial light, working night shifts, late night social activity, and technology that keeps us connected 24/7, our clocks are fighting an almost impossible battle to stay in sync. The end byproduct typically being phase delay or total circadian disalignment, essentially where our brain thinks it's daytime when it's night. These phase delays and misalignment have been associated with impaired secretion of melatonin, increased alertness during sleep phases, altered metabolic activity, and decreased sleep quality, and increased numbers of a condition known as digital and social jet lag, which we break down here. This artificial light, specifically the blue light spectrum, is emitted from common sources such as phones, tablets, computers, TVs, and overhead home lighting. And the evidence to date on these circadian disruptors ain't pretty, associating these natural disruptions with an increased risk of obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and impaired cognitive performance, which not only impacts your immediate health, but in turn increases the likelihood of accidents, medical errors, and overall loss of productivity. Yikes. This is why sleep hygiene, or a routine leading up to sleep, is so critical for optimizing these pretty cool meat suits to the max. And I'd suggest you use this video right here as a template to craft your own. And with that, here are 3 things that you can try this week. First, start experimenting with a time-restricted feeding protocol. This video right here is a great starting point for baselining yourself and building your very own regimen. Next, add 1 preventive stress management technique from the aforementioned video into your daily routine. And lastly, spend the week taking note of your nighttime light exposure, slowly incorporating these sleep hygiene tips from the video just mentioned to start optimizing your Z's. My friends, we are living in an interesting and amazing time. Technology is moving at such a rapid pace that it's easy to forget that we're biologically wired based off the last thousands of years, not the last 20. The trick here is finding the balance that will allow you to take advantage of these prosperous times without losing control of your most valuable asset while doing so: your health. For as long as we're living, our internal body clocks ain't going nowhere. So we might as well use them to our advantage, helping them drive the mission of feeling good, refreshed, restored, rejuvenated, energized every single damn day. You know, now that I think about it, maybe if our internal clock was as annoying as a literal cuckoo clock, we wouldn't find ourselves staying up all night watching odd, weird, interesting, highly sarcastic health YouTube videos on a pretty dope channel. Would we now?